Welcome to the EVM61 podcast brought to you by ETC Labs and ETC Core. In this podcast series, we talk about Ethereum Classic, have discussions with awesome people in the industry, and general blockchain topics. I'm pleased to have one of our awesome people in the industry. His name is Chuy. He's the co-founder of OS City. And he's also a recent winner of the Young Global Leaders, which is each year the World Economic Forum names its Young Global Leaders, and Chuy, co-founder of OS City, is one of those people. And we have him with us today. So Chuy, definitely introduce yourself. Congratulations for being one of the Young Global Leaders, and tell us about yourself.
Hi, Esteban. Hi, everyone listening. Thank you for the great introduction and for the congratulations on the YGL nomination. And yes, I mean, just last month I got the news, and it was a great media coverage on the YGLs. I guess it's the most popular media coverage that I have ever had in my life. It was crazy. I just woke up in the morning. It was around 6:30 a.m. and my phone was like crazy, like hundreds of notifications on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitter. And it was like, what happened today? And then I saw the World Economic Forum's blog shouting out the YGLs for 2020. And it was a beautiful thing, not just to receive the nomination, but how they posted the nomination. Because if you just Google YGL 2020, you'll get into the World Economic Forum website. And then there is this beautiful picture on Megan Rapinoe, this female footballist, soccer football player, and from the US. And then it's my name, and then it's Sana, the Prime Minister of Finland. So it was like, what am I doing in the middle of Megan Rapinoe and Sana on a blog post of the World Economic Forum? So that was a great news. And just in short, about telling about me, I guess this YGLs has turned out to be at the accomplishment of probably the last 10 to 15 years of work. I was born and raised in Monterrey, Mexico. It's a 2-hour driving from Texas, from the United States. I grew up here, small family, just one sister, and my father, my mother, and I got the opportunity to receive a scholarship to do from bachelor to undergrad, and then graduate of postgraduate studies in the Tecnológico de Monterrey Tech. It's a private university, popular in the region. And there I studied mechatronics engineering. Then I did a PhD in artificial intelligence and robotics. And by 2012, so almost 8 years ago, I was defending my dissertation on a smart society of robots, but at the same time, Monterrey was living its worst time in terms of security, in terms of narcos and drug dealers, and everything going wild on the city. So this is where the first premise of, if we were able to access information opportunely, we will all, as individuals, but mainly as a society, be in a better position to act. This started as let's say, as an analogy of what I was doing with my dissertation. When I was trying to make robots collaborate when they communicate and when they are not communicating directly. So that kind of a frictionless kind of cooperation. And some of those premises and algorithms were like, what if we do that on Twitter? What if we create hashtags? What if we organize information with bots? What if people can subscribe to hashtags and bots can send alerts through SMS or email? We started asking these kind of questions, and it turned out to be really well. People started tweeting with the structure that bots were designed to do, and that organized the conversation really well, so that citizens started to collaborate in an indirect approach, becoming or feeling like a more intelligent society. And from there on, probably the kickoff of the story that brought me to this moment It was an article of a columnist from the New York Times, Thomas Friedman. Thomas wrote an article entitled "How Mexico Got Back in the Game." That was back in 2013, and that article put us in the eye of many. We received, because of our technology, we received an award by Eric Schmidt. At that time, he was the CEO of Google, and he awarded us, saying, "These people are using technology to solve society's societal most pressing problems." So that make us feel relevant on what we were doing, and that kind of made my heart explode in a sense of disrupting my path to probably a research lab as a PhD on AI, to an entrepreneur for social purposes, or for impact driven kind of entrepreneurial path. Since then, we started very activistic. We were activists, providing technology and sophisticated algorithms for good, mainly focusing on the citizens. And the years took us to a point where we understood that what we were doing was better in the hands of the decision makers. Citizens typically get the information and act, but then if decision makers decide a different path, then they can throw every effort away. So we started working directly with governments back in 2015. And since then, we have been pivoting here and there, but essentially, we understood that what we need to do is to provide governments with a divide and conquer kind of a strategy to digitize themselves, so that they can tap into the newest technologies, which more than the evident feeling of governments modernizing themselves is actually tapping into everyone else's practices, right? Before COVID-19, before the coronavirus, it was really hard to have a Zoom or a video call with a public servant. Now it's a daily basis kind of thing. So this is a very simple thing that we do as individuals, that everyone does with their companies, that everyone does with their NGOs, but governments, they don't do that. So we understood that we needed to make government tap on this world, so to be closer to the citizens, to be able to understand the efforts and to provide the actual solutions that are needed, instead of just coming in and out from a certain tenure with a certain plan to be different and have a growth in a political career that maybe means nothing for the citizens or for a certain society. So, and yeah, here we are right now. From this path, we learned how to implement different strategies of artificial intelligence with government data. Then one of the main things that happens with governments, it's a generalized sense of distrust. People essentially in Latin America, where we are focusing, they literally 8 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, don't trust in government or in their governments, not local, not state, not national levels. So then the blockchain appeared, and blockchain, it's essentially a technology for building trust, because of its tamper-proof foundational attributes, its unhackability, its decentralization. And then we found an opportunity to rebuild trust using blockchain. We can talk about some of the experiences that we have had, but this is how we reached to Ethereum Classic and to ETC Labs, because we had the opportunity to shout out what we were doing in Latin America with blockchain. And then UNICEF Innovation, one of the technology or innovation arms from UNICEF, they made us a portfolio company of the UN. And then they collaborated with ETC Labs, and ETC Labs became one of our early investors. That was a great path to kind of validate that we are doing good, because we have the validation of UNICEF putting money behind us, and also the technological community such as Ethereum Classic putting money on our project, right? So it feels good. It feels like we are moving what we are preaching, which is emergent technologies, top-notch technologies to enhance the world for the next generations. And ETC Labs and UNICEF understood that. and they believed us, and here we are.
Good. And that's awesome that you say that. I know at ETC Labs, when because we have our CEO Terry, and he's always talking about what is going to contribute value to people. Like what could we do to further enhance? Because when you think about blockchain, it solves a lot of like infrastructure problems that, whether it's like you think about improving people's lives, sometimes improving the how data is processing, how data is being processed on the regulatory side can improve a lot of people's lives, make
Mhm.
things more efficient and more cost effective, and also more accountable. Because I remember the UN did like an Ethereum experiment, and one of the reasons why they're doing it is because like, hey, we send aid, and we just want to make sure that it's there and it's an
Mhm.
escrow, and we can
Mhm.
make sure that our aid is completely like basically immutable. Like no one's gonna
Mhm.
mess with it. It's gonna go there, and when the job's done, we could leave it in escrow. And it was done using Ethereum, so it's fully accessible and everything. And I remember, and talking about other things like you have to come to my city, Chicago, and help update our system because we got, if I think it's like 50 to 60 years old, the system they use to keep records of deeds and like deeds for your home, like you own property and stuff, and it's super expensive, it's super inefficient, and you think about what if you improve that with blockchain? What do? We basically make it easier for your average person to live their dream and get their home, live their lives um, more faster and more efficiently. And when you think about, and I understand that you're doing a lot with like government officials. And something I noticed in the blockchain industry too is a lot of people are not taking, because there's a lot of developers, we just want to create things and stuff. But an important part is the regulatory aspect, which it seems like you're on the forefront with. And I notice here in the United States, it's been kind of hard to get through the regulatory things, especially with some regulators that I've interacted with. Um, but in other places in emerging markets and stuff, it seems like blockchain is a little bit more adoptable and people are a little bit more open to it. Is from when it comes to dealing with the, I guess you could say, the government aspect in South America or in other places outside like the United States, do you feel like people are a little bit more open to it? Or is there certain things that, because I understand sometimes if you mention blockchain, like it's just so new. Is there a certain strategy to help communicate blockchain in a, and I guess you could say a more welcoming manner for regulators and governments, because it does provide value and it is here to help. Like how do
Mhm.
you communicate that to 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 I guess you could say like the government entities?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I completely got your point. And then there's this short story. I was once sharing a panel on the Latin American Impact Investment Forum. We were participating in the opening panel, and then the moderator asked me like, Chuy, do you literally sell anti-corruption blockchain tools to corrupt people?
That's funny.
So it was funny, but this is kind of what is behind the words that you were saying. And let me put it like this. First, as I said, blockchain it's a trust enhancer kind of tool, right? You can trust that what is written there will not be manipulated, tampered, edited. It is not something that if you destroy a computer, it is gone. If you destroy the institution that issued something on the blockchain, it is gone. No. You know that digital assets on the blockchain will prevail, will have a portability, longevity, and this is something that matches the moment of the evolution of trust. If you think of the story of trust, we typically used to trust one person, individual trust, one-on-one kind of trust. And then we went 200, maybe 300 years ago or more into what we know as marriage today. Like, I love you that much that let's put the government between us. So we started putting institutions in between. So trust kind of got these third-party elements, such as governments, banks, and these kind of institutions. And this was the time when mom and dad told you, don't go into strangers' homes, don't jump into a stranger's car. The times before Uber and Airbnb. Today we just jump into anyone's car because of the 5 stars that they have. So even you don't know that person, you never seen that person, you can let them in your house or your car, or you jump into their house or their car just because what others say. So this is a decentralization moment for trust. We trust in people because what others tell about them. So now we have a decentralized reputation that says if we are trustable or not. And this is the opportunity that blockchain is giving to governments. We are jumping into a moment where if government tells you something, then you start to feel a little bit skeptic about information. Particularly again in Latin America, if you have the trajectory of certain or politician, and you see 1, 2, 3 main scandals behind, and then he or she comes and says like, oh, but I'm not going to do that again. You say like, so these are kind of moments of distrust that are natural because of the story of politics in the region, probably beyond the region as well. This is changing, and this has an opportunity to balance what it's out there. Now it's easy to see a politician doing something wrong in a YouTube leaked video or in a tweet or on Facebook, and that didn't happen before. So politicians are also changing their habits, let's say, their bad habits. They know that they cannot behave the same. And at the same time, they have recognized that there is a huge opportunity to make more money and gain more power if they do good, if they are trustable beings for people. And this is where blockchain has an opportunity. When we started working with governments, the very first project, and it was a pilot project that we did with the Organization of the American States, with the city, a million inhabitant city in Argentina called Bahia Blanca, we made it to do subsidies traceability. So we traced how much money was given to artists. It was the Ministry of the Arts on this municipality. As you may guess, this was like, okay, we don't know blockchain, we don't want it in the main public contracting stuff. We want it on the arts, like a noble government agency. So they gave us the opportunity, we did that, and it was a very beautiful lesson on the life cycle of blockchain. How do you implement blockchain so that government doesn't feel like he has or it has a big brother looking at it, or tracing everything, every single act and move of money. So how can you help government feel confident about using the tool, but also make the citizens and everyone outside of the government to trust on this information? With this, we started having different experiences that took us to collaborate with the Organization for Economical and Development, Economical and Cooperative or Collaborative Development, I think is the OECD. So, and we went there to share in a 15-minute presentation in their headquarters. It was last October in Paris, sharing our experiences working with governments. Turns out that the OECD has 35 countries as partners. So they pay a fee to belong to the OECD so that the OECD can organize regulations for them. So you don't change regulations state by state, local government. You go to the OECD, you say the best practices, and then the OECD downloads or put it down to every one of these governments. And literally, this is the way how you create a new world. This is the strategy. To create pilot projects, to get into these big corporations or big organizations, such as the OECD, the UN, some of these multilateral organizations, so that they can understand what you are doing. And these people, they already talk blockchain. You don't need to explain blockchain. So it's easier to get in the conversation with them and say, okay, this is blockchain. You already know about that, but this is how we have been using. This is what you didn't know. So imagine if this had a legal background, a regulatory background behind. So if we can change regulations with this order, we can actually create new models of governance. We can actually create a new world. We were saying that last October before the virus, and now because of the increase and generalized trust, maybe you have seen the memes around the Schrodinger virus, right? Because we're saying that if you know the Schrodinger experiment and quantum physics, now we feel like that with the lockdown, like we don't have the virus at the same time. So we distrust in ourselves, we distrust in the food delivery, we distrust in everything. So how can we put blockchain on everything outside so that we can create kind of a new governance for everything, for the food chain, for government decisions, for everything. So this is an opportunity to look at it. And in particular for Latin America, and this is where I close my long response to the short question, but deep question, the opportunity for Latin America is that, and different from the United States, most of Latin American governments, they don't have digital or data infrastructures. So you can actually leapfrog. And this is the advantage. Because we don't have the digital infrastructures, we are jumping from paper to blockchain. And that's easier than going from current platforms and systems and digital tools provided by big companies such as Oracle, for example, moving from there to a blockchain kind of world. It's easier to do that because there's nothing. So you can plant whatever seed you want because land is there for you. In the United States, the challenge is different.
That's actually great because, like, when you say like we don't have to worry about taking some colossal system and trying to migrate it over to blockchain. You can just go straight to the bleeding edge, go straight to like incorporating the blockchain or other kind of distributed fault tolerant systems. And that's like a huge, that's one of the biggest advantages. And I know a lot of investors see, they're like, yeah, we're just focusing everywhere else except because I know like the United States is very slow or very hesitant, and I could just speak for there because I'm over here. But people are like, okay, well, we'll take this value elsewhere, and we'll build where people want it. Like I think Malta's welcoming blockchain, and you said, you know, a lot of the governments you're working with, it's like, what do they have to lose? They could just go straight to, just go straight to the front of the race. And something you mentioned, I think one of the cool things about one of the cool things you mentioned is that you know, you could get to the front of race of things, but also communicate with the governments about, hey, this is what blockchain is. And do you feel like you have to, do you feel like when you're able to onboard them, are they able to communicate with their peers? Or is there like a demographic, I guess say like a demographic brick wall? Because I know sometimes you can communicate to one regulator and maybe they just can't get through to other people. And it seems like you're making a lot of progress though with OS City, like helping to like create these regulations and stuff. And honestly, it feels like we need OS City like in all other countries, because there isn't a lot of people that are working with the regulation side to help nurture blockchain adoption in a very welcoming way. Because I know there's like two sides. I think the OS City strategy that you guys are doing is totally spot on, and it's also good for people in the new world and old world, because you're not just, because there's some people who wish, oh, the system's going to be destroyed. It's like, no, that's terrible. Why would you want people to suffer? And because I still know some people that, you know, they're not even capable of the concept of going on their phone to pay for things. But nurturing this for the new world in a very welcoming way, and working with regulators and with the new generations coming now, because we have a whole new generation, or we have a whole generation retiring, whole new generation coming in. I mean, I think this, in the long term and probably in our lifetime, we're going to see some huge major impact, and it seems like OS City is going to be a part of making that change, and that changes for all of the blockchain, all of the crypto sphere, whether it's private, public. It's like we're we're all in this together, and it's all about contributing value, or as you could say, the internet of value, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and you're spot on this. I mean, there is resistance. Even the most innovative and prepared public servant still has a lot of structures to follow. So it's really hard to speak technology, to speak blockchain on in general on the public sector. What you were sharing remind me of a tweet. We have that tweet pinned on OS City's Twitter account. It's at OS City Latam. This guy Fayaz King. He is the executive director of Fields and Results and Innovation of the UN, and he tweeted. We don't know him personally, and he tweeted saying like potential game changer alert, and he says that we were this company or this startup that it's actually providing the tools that governments need today. In this moment of crisis, what we like to think is that it's a great opportunity to make governments understand not only the power of digitization, which has been there for several years. Even most of the governments in developed countries have already digitized most of their services, or at least that they are working through that. But beyond digitization, to understand that if we are on a lockdown, then there is no way for councils to vote, to make decisions. There is no legislation moving on. Everything is happening from literally inside of senators and every public servant houses. So this is opacity at its best. This is not transparency. So how can you switch that? Well, you have video calls, you have blockchain-based decisions, you have these kind of tools out there that can help you. And this is the way we're making progress. As I said, we started being kind of activists disguised as entrepreneurs. We were like that. We were like, oh yeah, let's break the system and let's change all these and let's empower the citizens and let's build this new world. And it was beautiful for for my 20s, but it wasn't really effective. We were not actually getting results. We were getting enemies. We were finding opposition. We were finding resistance in general, and we were getting conversations with top level decision makers at in different governments, but everyone was scared about us because we were the guys making everything transparent and showing every dirty stuff out. And that made me kind of grow in a sense of this is a beautiful revolutionary kind of life, but this is not what is going to be effective if I do want to build something that is going to change how we live. And this is where we started rethinking our path, rethinking our way, and this has shown to be the best strategy to actually understand government. Because if you think it properly, and the more I work close to governments, the more humans you find. When you think government in the best case scenario, you think of this typical icon of a Greek kind of building, right? Like three columns and a triangle on top. And this is what comes to mind most of the times for the majority of people when you say the word government. But you never think of people, and you never think of people that are that are forced to follow the same practices every single day, hundreds of times, depending on the number of citizens, for 3, maybe 4, maybe 6 years, maybe 12 years. So try to do that. You become a cynic. It's a sad world. If you work for a government, even though you have this potential to have an effect on every citizen's life, uh, your day to day it's awful. It's you're always doing the same things once and again. And if you're a mayor or a governor or maybe a president, you spend all your tenure extinguishing. That's not the way to go. For example, right now, most of the presidents in Latin America in different countries, president in Mexico, he reached even Trump in the United States. It is kind of a 50-50 kind of thing. So that means that every decision, every act, or every single word that comes out of them has 50% of acceptance and 50% of rejection. Imagine living like that. That's a pain. That's the way for anxiety and depression to grow as a human, not as a public servant. And if you rule a city or if you rule a country, you are not allowed to make mistakes. So there is a lot of, or there is a huge lack of empathy with public servants. And when we understood that, and when we understood that we were living this digital era, these communicational approaches, all these different tools and technologies, all these 4.0 exponential singularity kind of moment, and the PhD in AI, I said, dude, I have all the baggage, all the tools, all the platforms in knowledge and in ideas for tools to help these kind of people, which are actually helpless kind of people trying to help a lot of helpless people kind of people. When you understand that, then you start making progress because you give a tool to a person that has a very frustrating daily way to act or daily way to work. And then you enhance their lives, and then they act in a happier approach, and they are more willing to do their work, and they are better informed to make better decisions. Most of the times, public servants here in Latin America, majors, make huge decisions based on intuition because there is no data. So if you give them a little bit of data, a little bit of information, a little bit of skills to communicate using Google Slides or a Google Doc to have collaborative approaches for something, that's a huge thing. And that's how you make progress. And that's how you match the moment of trust. And when you build trust, then you have open doors to start sharing different tools. Today, most of the things that we do with blockchain is just issuing certificates. A certificate for commercial permits, for liquor licenses, for handicap parking, for driver's licenses, for subsidies delivery, for inspectors, for university diplomas, for this kind of information that you want to be tampered with. But our roadmap, it includes blockchain IDs, so that you can have a wallet as a citizen where every official document that you have, it's deposited on that wallet. And also with this ID, you can tap on official government's information. And because you trust your ID, because you trust that it is unique, you understand and you start grabbing all the certainty and all the value that blockchain, that other digital assets on blockchain from the government have. So how do you get there? You get there step by step. You get it, as I said, in a divide and conquer approach where government starts trusting people, or humans operating the government are actually empowered with the tools so that they can kind of step out of the frustrating world that is a government. Most of the times, believe me, it is not that there is a bad public servant, corrupt, trying to steal everything. It's just a person that for 3 years went into whatever I do, I'm robbing something, or I'm a burglar. It doesn't matter what I do. Someone thinks that I'm stealing. So I don't care. I'm gonna steal right now. so this is where we are tapping. This is how we are making progress, trying to build empathy and to deliver the software or technological in general tools for these people to enhance their daily livings and to better serve.
No, that's amazing how how you just said all that. And I think something that people could take from here is to, and I'm guilty of it too. I could be a little bit of an anarchist sometimes,
Mhm.
but then it kind of makes me realize, well, I am being kind of, um, I'm being a little insensitive that, these, the system, has just been there for a while, and those people have to deal with it too. And remember, you look at some politicians when they first get elected, and like after their term is over, they age dramatically. The amount of stress and bombardment, like you say, they can make a decision. There's going to be 50% or 1/3 of people that are going to be so polarized about it. It is a hard job, and when they have to deal with all that, and you come to them, hey, you want to talk about proof of work or proof of stake systems, like they it's a lot for the governments to handle, especially right now where it's still an emerging technology, but we could still deliver value right now, like you say, certificates. I remember, like, for me to register my vehicle is crazy. I had to go to like 2 physical buildings. I had to get physical stickers. I had to pay with like some money order thing. It's like, why couldn't I just do this on the blockchain and immutable record? Because the authorities are generally, because unless you were to like forge a document, the authorities are generally going to look up your information in the database no matter what. So, I mean, there's so many ways. I mean, we could talk all day about how blockchain contribute value everywhere, but I think we are reaching time. So I want to thank you for coming on this podcast. I definitely want everyone to, especially crazy anarchists out there, to check out OS City, see their strategy, and because honestly, I believe we need we need the OS City strategy to be going everywhere. Um, 'Cause I think that's going to be one of the. It's going to be one of. It seems like it's going to be one of the keys to blockchain and crypto adoption, but for everyone, not just for some new worlds, because we're all human. We're all part of this entire system. We could all go that together and take everyone with in a great manner. Um, so, Chuy, if do you want to tell us where we could find more information about OS City, about you, or where could we learn more about what you're involved in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first, beyond before saying this about OECD point of contacts, there's a very popular documentary out there related to blockchain and particularly how it started with Bitcoin, which is probably you have seen it. Is the banking on Bitcoin kind of documentary. I think it's open on Netflix. So now that everyone is at lockdown, it's a great opportunity to see banking on Bitcoin. It shows an example of what you just said. If you want like to make the system collapse and be this anarchist approach to rebuild a better world, then not so many good things are going to happen to you. If you see the first generation of Bitcoiners on the movie, you'll see what happened to them. Some of them are either dead, some of them are in jail, some of them, yeah, they built the basis for what today is Bitcoin and blockchain. So they were kind of a sacrifice, let's say. But I believe that is not necessary today. Tools are out there as we believe more in people because of decentralized ways of trusting. We can actually decentralize our efforts at the same path, at the same way and strength to change things. There was this time when I was doing a research stay. I lived for 1 year in Brazil, and it was during 2010 when Monterey started these insecurity moments that I've just shared before. And my mom, she called me and she says that please don't come back. Please don't come back with your plans, with your ideas. People are going to kill you. And I said, like, Mom, it is not me. It is people on Twitter using hashtags. So when you decentralize these kind of things, then there is no one person that will kill a movement. that will kill your intentions to improve the state of the world. So before the internet, before the moment of decentralized trust, before the accessibility that we have now, that it's actually playing against us now with the spreading of the virus. Before this moment, yeah, we needed one person moving, one person visiting every physical place. We needed the Martin Luther Kings. Today, that's a decentralized figure. And this is what it's important to understand, that today we have the tools to rebuild the ways we are governed and the ways we interact with our governments by providing solutions, providing data, and asking for solutions at the same time. If you think of us as individuals, we evolved super fast because we got our mobile devices. Every single day, even if you don't spend a single cent on your mobile device after you purchase it, of course, there are more apps in the App Store or in the Play Store. Where is the Gov Store for governments? How can we give them access to cheap technology that has decentralized costs that can transform themselves the way we transform ourselves into digital beings? So this is the opportunity. This is what we are trying to build. This is the models that we're having. This is the platform that we are serving. And if you want to read more on this, you can access os.city. That is the website. And if you want to know about this platform and the what we call the Gov Store, you can go to oscity/platform. Also, specifically for the virus moment, we have created one pager adapting our city listener and blockchain certificates models for the mitigating the virus moment. And you can access that at covid.os.city. If you want to see a PDF with our government experiences, go to gov.os.city, and the same for blockchain. If you want to see our blockchain experiences, go to blockchain.os.city. So again, os.city, blockchain.os.city, gov.os.city, and covid.os.city. Also, you'll find the contact there, but if you want to write an email to me, I will be happy to answer. My email is super simple. It's just the letter J for the initial letter of my name, Jesus. So j@os.city.
Thank you, Chuy. And we'll definitely put all the links for the listeners in the description. And
Awesome.
Thank you, Chuy, for coming on. I hope everyone's safe during these times as well. And yeah, we look forward to the future. And thank you, OS City, for helping advocate that.
Thank you, Esteban. Thank you at ETC Labs and everyone to let us share our stories and hopefully walk this path and create this potential that we are sharing on this podcast. Thank you very much.